Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to today's edition of Tales from Outer Space, where I take stories from across the internet and read them for your entertainment. This particular story is called Poseidon's Bone Worker, written by Something Touches Back. To Ambassador Fuma, from Attaché Drulkin, 3201.43, Glacian Static Calendar. Sir, I have arranged passage of the human-operated freighter Poseidon's Bone Worker, which is expected to break orbit within the day. This should get me back to Glacier on or about 3201.80. I expect the amenities to be sparse, but it is the most direct option. My meeting went very well, and I look forward to presenting the documents to you in person. 3201.44. Sir, I write you from my cabin aboard the freighter's Poseidon's Bone Worker. Amenities are, well, not any sparser than I imagined. Definitely a little odd. My cabin contains a bed that adjusts to a couch or chair and includes a swing-arm desk. There is also a large cabinet containing several drawers and an enclosed space for large items. Crewman Richards, the steward assigned to get me settled in, had to show me how to access the cabinet, as every drawer and door has a substantial latch that has to be manipulated to open it. He cautioned me that nothing should ever be left out where it could be tossed around. Even the bed has a restraining belt system built into it. It's as if they're expecting heavy turbulence at any moment. Turbulence? In space? Also, wood. I've never seen so much wood on a spaceship. Not only is my cabin completely done up like a rustic mountain chalet, but the corridors are lined with thick-feeding wood planks on the floor, walls, and much of the ceiling. The corridor that leads from my cabin to the shared sanitation facilities and the galley features a wall in which the ubiquitous wood planking is interrupted every couple of meters by a round window about half a meter in diameter. Each window consists of a thick pane of glass encased in a sturdy brass frame. Through these windows, I can see the space station at which we are docked, and the Earth and stars beyond. I assume that there is a video screen beyond the glass, as the corridor is an interior of the ship. At the moment, the entire ship is in zero gravity, as they finish loading and then securing the huge cargo pallets. Still, Crewman Richards assures me that once the captain is satisfied that everything is secure, normal Earth gravity will be restored. Apparently, it takes a while because the loadmaster has to open and inspect each container to make sure its contents inside are adequately secured. 3201.50. Sir, we've been underway for 5 days now, and I have finally stopped puking enough to write. There is something seriously wrong with the artificial gravity on this ship. I can feel the warble in the room, a gentle rocking like a baby's cradle. But outside my room is another story. I take my life in my hands as I journey from my cabin to the toilet. The deck heaves and rolls beneath my feet, while the portholes along the corridor show not stars, but an expanse of Earth's oceans under the blue sky. 3201.51. Today, after I again slammed against the corridor, Crewman Richards let me in a little trick. Never turn your back on the sea, Drulkin, he said. The motion of the corridor is not random. Rather, it moves in a rhythm determined by the wave's action on the sea as viewed through the portholes. By watching the sea out of the corner of my eye, I can predict and compensate for the motion of the deck. With practice, I was able to walk from my room to the galley without touching the wall or falling on my face even once. Crewman Richards says that I'm getting my sea legs. I asked, why even have the portholes and the artificial gravity shenanigans? That must add considerably to the operational cost of the ship. Crewman Richards explained that staring at the void too much can make you loco, and that the sights and sounds and feel of being back home on one's Earth's oceans can help you stay grounded. In my opinion, if the goal is to not go loco, the crew of the Poseidon's Bone Worker missed that boat long ago. 3201.57. Sir, the chef wanted a bunch of bricks and bags of stuff moved from one of the storage areas to the galley, so the first mate ordered the crew from the bucket brigade between the 2 points. I was curious, so I joined in. We each stood about an arm's length apart, facing the wall of the portholes in it, and passed items one at a time, from right to left up the line. The bosun walked up and down the line, making sure everything was moving smoothly. As he did, he sang a kind of folk song that I later learned was a shanty. Soon everyone was singing with him, and I noticed something peculiar. The bosun sang in rhythm with the rise and fall of the deck, and we passed the cargo in time to the song. The result was that each item passed from one person to the next when the deck was at the top of the wave, where the deck was momentarily stationary. Everything moved together, and nothing got dropped. It was so much fun that I didn't realize that I had personally handed right to left about a ton of material until later, when my arms and shoulders objected quite painfully. 3201.58. It's churrasco night. Churrasco is apparently when you push chunks of meat onto a long, sharp-edged implement called a cutlass and cook it over an open bed of hot coals. Now, I know why we were passing bricks down the corridor yesterday. The chef provided a variety of different kinds of meat and built a substantial brick enclosure for hot coals to ride in the middle of the galley seating area. But every crew member provided their own cutlass. They had them in sheaths that they wore at their waists for the occasion. So, if you think that cooking over an open fire on a spaceship while the deck rolls around like an amusement park ride is a bad idea, I must direct your attention back to my previous messages about the crew and Loco. Oh, and alcohol was involved, both beer and grog. Grog is a foul drink consisting of distilled spirit called rum mixed with water, lime juice, and sugar. By tradition, the water has been stored improperly for quite some time, as humans think a little algae adds something to the mix, if Crewman Richards is to be believed. Speaking of which, Crewman Richards assigned me my own cutlass out of the armory. A strange place to store dining equipment, but whatever. Crewman Richards said it is a general-purpose tool that every sailor should have, and advised me to keep it handy. 3201.65. Sir, I don't think I've ever laughed so hard. Crewman Richards and I were conversing in the corridor, Richards with his back to the portholes and I facing them. Through the portholes, the sky was getting ominous, and I saw a longer-than-usual wave approaching. I braced with my back against the solid bulkhead, and when the ship jolted upwards, watched Richard face-plant against the planks next to me. As he lifted himself up off the floor, I said, "Never turn your back on the sea, crewman." "Oh, sir." The expression on his face was priceless. "I'm beginning to like it here." 3201.68. Sir, do you recall the reports about the Glacian captain and the crew going rogue and attacking other ships? They had renamed their corvette the Marauder and, last I heard, it was quite a bounty posted on all their heads. I bring it up because they paid us a visit yesterday. It was pretty early in the morning, ship's time, when the general quarters alarm sounded and the first mate called over the general address system. "Typhoon! Typhoon! Secure all lightings and batten down the hatches. This is not a drill. Prepare to repel boarders." Boarders? Looking around my cabin, the only thing I had that I could even vaguely use as a weapon was my Cheruso cutlass. I secured it to my waist, the way the crewman Richards had taught me. He had also given me a cleaning cloth for it, and I taught me how to tie the fabric around my head so that I would have it with me. But out of the way until I needed it. I tied that on too, then, and have opened my cabin door and peeked into the corridor. I'm glad I peeked instead of just charging out. The porthole across from my room was showing a raging sea under the dark grey sky, broken by frequent lighting. As soon as I entered a leg into the corridor, I could feel that it was buckling like I had never experienced before. Even the humans running down the corridor with one hand on the wall for balance. It did not escape my attention that every crew member also had their cutlass at their waist and their cleaning rag around their head, just like me. Crewman Richards saw me and said, "Come on, Drocklin, it's Marauder. They're boarding aft." Crew members were already taking positions all around the perimeter of the master room just inside the crew aft airlock when we arrived. Crewman Richards guided me to a covered position not far from where the captain was talking to one of the engineers. I overheard the engineer report that after the Marauder had secured itself to our hull, Poseidon's boneworker's own grapple had secured the Marauder. It was not going to be able to separate again. Just then the inner door to the airlock slid open, and a mob of nearly 20 Gleason Marines rushed in with their guns at the ready. I suppose that they envisioned forming a defensive arc or something, but that's hard to do when you're not expecting the floor to be buckling and rolling like a stuck Hitachi. Every one of them fell, some violently, some puking almost before impact. A couple of them fired their weapons, but instead of ricocheting like they would in metal bulkheads, they were harmlessly absorbed by the thick planks. "Looks like somebody forgot their sea legs," said Richards as a crewmate nearest to the airlock rushed forward and used the little plastic straps Richards called zip ties to secure the boarders and hold them back towards cover. Several more Marauders came through and repeated the performance over the next several seconds. Yes, less than a minute went by, even though it felt like an hour. Then the captain gave the order that every available crew member pulled out their cutlass and charged through the airlock. Several pairs of them were also carrying heavy-looking boxes between them. As we ran, my legs now accustomed to the movements of the floor, Richards explained to me that blades work much better than guns in extremely close and crowded corridors when the goal is to incapacitate, not kill, the opposition. The bounties are larger for felons captured alive, but the warrants don't specify that they need all their limbs. The fighting in the first room was bloody, but the crew members of the Marauder were not as accustomed to close fighting with blades as the crew of the Poseidon's boat worker, nor were their blades as long. However, crewman Richards did take a slashing to the forearm. He simply took the cleaning rag off his head, wrapped it around the wound, and kept going. Watching the other crew members, I began to suspect that was what those rags were really for. In fact, it was pretty clear this wasn't my crewmate's first counterboarding operation. As we progressed into the corridor, one of the teams carrying a box secured it to the floor and shouted, "Starboard in 5!" Then I felt a sickening feeling as of the floor dropping out from under me and realized the boxes were portable artificial gravity devices. Like all ships except human spacecraft, apparently, the Marauder's gravity generators were set on a constant value. They would not be able to compensate for whatever shenanigans the humans were putting now. Sure enough, the humans moved as one to the starboard wall and almost casually walked up the wall onto the ceiling as the artificial gravity went through a half roll to make the ceiling the floor. Screams and the crashing of heavy things demonstrated that the field extended beyond the immediate corridor and well into the surrounding ship. Crewman Richards helped me to my feet on the ceiling while explaining, "On this ship, the fugitives we seek have a home turf advantage. They know the layout of their ship. We do not, but they have probably never looked at their ship from the perspective before, and they may disorient them just enough." "That and tossing them around," I replied, rubbing my sore knee. "Sir, I did not see much more of the action beyond the initial counterboarding, but I can report that within a few hours the Marauder was ours, and all the villains save 3 were in custody. The 3 we lost had attempted to hide in a storage room where the cargo was not properly secured." 3201.70. Sir, I'm told that the prize money for the capture and return of the Marauder, combined with the bounty money for the crew, comes to an impressive sum, which I'm not allowed to reveal until after payment is made. I bring this up because I've been informed that while half of the sum will go into the account for the ship maintenance and upgrades, the other half will be split evenly amongst the crew. In this context, and at the recommendation of crewman Richards, the captain has informed me that I'm included as crew and will get my cut. Sir, after I deliver the documents from my meeting on Earth to you, I'll be resigning from the Gleason Department of State. Working on the human freighter Poseidon's bone worker pays way better, and I have my sea legs. Also, there is an error in our translator. While it correctly translates miner to mine worker and baker to bakery worker, the second word in the ship's name is an idiom that does not mean bone worker, but rather is an allusion to it. As Richards put it, screwing with the pirates. End of story. I'd quickly like to thank our Tier 5 channel members, Casper Arnholt, John Creighton, Manatharia, 050, Dragzoon WRE, and Elijah Silvercross. Thank you very much.